I'm not responsible for jailing people in Ghana. The courts in Ghana are independent institutions, and they have been all through this period of the Fourth Republic. People misconduct themselves and they're brought before court. It's for the court to deal with them. That's not a matter.
It has nothing to do about politics.
It has nothing to do with the executive. And their behavior is what lands them in problem with the police and with the courts. It's not the protests. How can the president, who himself, his political career was aided by leading protests, have problems with protests? I don't have problems with protests. And nothing is done in Ghana to prevent people from airing their views on anything.
On him say galamsey issues no are generating international talks. I protesting no. Esan say and the internet ama wiase aye kukuwa nti no. Eju aye wiase afana baby obi ate say Ghanaians lament on illegal mining aye friend galamsey. Na ye na nado dan kwakufu ado ye Ghana's president Nyakonya ekwa brochire ma ye France 24 English and in ye interview na natural say one protester so and I ready man penny o si den na obesima akase ma obi an protest o say you akanya so protest na ye risa ne say na dey nti no mo protest no watch home no che say the protesters no go against a yet Ghana ne rule ne dia and na police ebe chi omo ama judiciary no so ebe sentence on because there was three arms of government legislature, executive no na ono obi interfere obi edi no hoso. And said, "You not as an executive in the legislature and say, Omonko obi, and a judiciary may say Omonko obi, Obia edini lane, or at last year. And you know, or the come up here to we can see Yanko, see another danko of Bofra or the buy."
Nana Akufo-Addo, Mr. President, thank you very much.
Hello. Good to see you again.
Thank you. I want to begin with the situation in the region. Right. Are you concerned about protest movements? We've seen a lot of protests. Some activists were arrested, put in jail. The opposition is saying you're trying to stifle dissent.
I'm not responsible for jailing people in Ghana. The courts in Ghana are independent institutions, and they have been all through this period of the Fourth Republic. People misconduct themselves and they're brought before court. It's for the court to deal with them. That's not a matter.
It has nothing to do about politics.
It has nothing to do with the executive. And their behavior is what lands them in problem with the police and with the courts. It's not the protests. How can the president, who himself, his political career was aided by leading protests, have problems with protests? I don't have problems with protests. And nothing is done in Ghana to prevent people from airing their views on anything.
One piece of good news for your vice president who's running is the agreement with your creditors. Ghana was in a very, very difficult situation. Right. 2 years ago, it defaulted on its debt repayments. Now there's just
It didn't default, it suspended them.
It suspended them.
It didn't default.
Right.
It's an important distinction.
Right, but you had some good news because there's an agreement with now nearly all your creditors.
Right.
How much of a sign is it for Ghana? Is it just a respite, or is it really a game changer for Ghana?
I think it's an important development because, first of all, it is a sign of the confidence that your creditors have in your economy. That 98.6% of those holding the commercial debt of Ghana have agreed on the reworking of the debt. That's what essentially the restructuring is about. They're going to, as from next week, exchange their bonds for new bonds which have a different maturity dates, different rates of interest. $13 billion of money was restructured as a result of this agreement. $5 billion equipment, 37% of the nominal value of our debt has been essentially cancelled, and another $4.3 billion of savings on interest will also accrue during the period. So altogether, you're talking about savings to the Ghanaian exchequer of something in the region of $10 billion. That's a significant amount of money. And what it is meaning is that Ghana as economy is now back to where it was before the crisis.
As a quick conclusion, you're confident that you will hand over the baton to your vice president?
I believe that first of all, he's waging a good campaign. He has a message that is resonating, especially with the young people in Ghana. And secondly, he has a good record to defend. Despite the economic difficulties, the Ghanaian people know that nearly 8 years in which we were in office were not wasted. We did a lot. Major reforms in education, in our health system, in our road infrastructure, in the development of the digital economy. They're key ingredients of the Ghanaian economy that have seen significant improvements and development since we came back. So there's a record on which he's campaigning. At the same time, he's also brought some new ideas to the surface, which are ideas, especially of how the young people can also now get involved in developing themselves and the nation's economy. And that is what is giving me confidence that he's going to win. And certainly that is my hope. But I believe that he will win, and that you'll remember this discussion when you hear the news that comes out of Accra.
In July, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger have created a so-called Confederation of Sahel States. They've had announced that they would withdraw from the regional bloc ECOWAS. How worried are you that this could signal the end of ECOWAS?
It has to be a worrying situation. ECOWAS is a 50-year-old organization, and until this decision on the part of these three states, it had been an important homogeneous bloc. So for three of them, and they're all founder members of ECOWAS, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, for them to come to this situation is regrettable. There can be no two ways about it. Now, I don't believe there's any serious-minded West African who will be happy at what has happened. What then matters is what are we going to do about it?
Because they say we're going out.
Well, it's their right. I mean, because even the treaty that binds us all together has provisions for you to walk out. So that's something that is foreseeable. But I don't believe it's in their interest, and I don't believe it's in the interest of the wider ECOWAS bloc to allow this to happen.
So you still hope for a solution?
Well, more than hope. We have to continue to work at it, to make sure that we can, at the end of the day, find some common ground that would allow them to look at the return to ECOWAS. We have to do that. They are three important members of our community, and we can't just wash our hands off them.
Right. What they've done is wash their hands off ECOWAS. When it came to promising transitions, there were sanctions were lifted. They played around with ECOWAS, and the intentions are pretty clear. They want to stay in power.
That's obvious, and that has to.
You were taken for a ride. That was my
well, it may well be, but whatever be the case, that cannot mean that we will stop wanting to work to see what the possibilities are of a reintegration of the three countries back into ECOWAS. There's no reason for us to continue to wash our hands off them. Even if they want to wash their hands off, we cannot wash our hands off them.
Let's take the example of Niger.
Right.
Niger, there's a coup. Elected President Mohamed Bazoum arrested. ECOWAS says we want him out, and we're threatening military intervention.
It hasn't happened.
1 year later, military intervention is off the table, unless I missed something. And President Bazoum is in jail, and no one says anything.
It is an unacceptable position.
Should there have been a military intervention?
I don't want to get into that discussion. It didn't happen.
And it won't happen.
Well, how states evolve and how policies evolve, you cannot predict. But at the moment, it's not happening, and Bazoum is still in prison. I think that his position is unacceptable. It's completely unacceptable that a democratically elected leader like Bazoum should be treated in the manner in which he has been treated. Essentially, people are throwing mud in the face of the Nigerian people. We have to continue to insist on his freedom. As far as I'm concerned, his freedom, unconditional freedom, is still very much on the table, and we will continue to agitate for it and to be part of the ECOWAS demand that he be freed as soon as possible.
Speaking of security, French troops left, those countries said, we're going to take care of security ourselves, bring Russian mercenaries or whatever. You are a neighbor of Burkina Faso. From your viewpoint, has the situation worsened since the French troops have withdrawn, or has it improved?
It's certainly not improved. I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think just yesterday or the day before, we saw a massacre of large numbers of civilians again. And they are right on our border, so we have a good idea of what is going on. The security situation does not appear to have improved, and the need for us.
Wodi na na ado ne se brofo de oka o mienya num so atase enitin sama ekoso e wo France 24 and e dabe somo e wo imanko life media so no you agree with the president ne wo kanum ana say chinchin anche mo so wo chere because attorney general attorney general and the prosecute e protesters yenye CID bia keke attorney general and e prosecute wo mo inti no na nanse ni ma attorney general and prosecute wo na nye normal police prosecutors iba and I must say well whatever the case be no message is simple mind illegal gun I'm saying no illegal ones nyai na afi yenya niema ebeboa ama yensuo ene yensa ase no yetumi aboho ban mi din e de amelda ha e ma go like na subscribe like na share video no so ma for makram